Hi there Star Wars collectors, and welcome to another Bossk's Bounty video. And in this video I'm going to be discussing the most recent updates to the Haslab Cantina. So you may have seen some stuff online. I'm going to give you all of my opinions about it. Basically, yesterday I attended a presentation by the Hasbro Star Wars team. In that presentation were Jin, who's the marketing manager I believe, and also Chris the designer. And basically we were asked to submit a bunch of questions for them to answer in what I thought was going to be a Q&A style meeting that they've done before, and then we may have the opportunity to, you know, feedback on their answer and things like that. But unfortunately it wasn't like that. It was a presentation where we just kind of had to sit there and watch them asking each other the questions and answering the questions. It was a bit of a weird setup. I will get into that a little bit later in the video, how I'm a bit annoyed about how that was and how they sort of handled all of that. But first of all, let's just break down really what was included in that session. As I said, you've probably seen it already online, but I thought I'd make a video about it, tell you my thoughts, as I'm not allowed to actually post the whole presentation myself. So first of all, let's just get to the positives. They did announce that Momanadon, or Hammerhead, will be pipelined for next year. So that is another alien that we can tick off for the original 96 and also to fill our cantinas, which is great. So that's great news. So to go along with those main characters of Ben Kenobi, Han Solo, Chewie and Luke Skywalker, we now have Hammerhead as well. So that's one more alien to tick off, which is great. Another positive thing that they did was show you lots of different slides, which I will pop up on the screen right now, telling you all of the different dimensions of the different parts of the cantina. So this is basically showing you that you can display it however you like. It's completely modular. They're showing you the dimensions so you can work out exactly whether you're going to have it on a coffee table, on top of a cabinet, or, you know, or in all different parts on a shelf. That kind of thing. So you can see these images here. If you go onto my Facebook page, you'll see all of those images. You can download them for yourself, so you have them, or you can, you know, pause the images on the screen right now and, you know, check them out for yourself. But that's the other kind of positive thing about it. They also showed this image here of a menu of accessories, so you can really see all of the accessories. Yep, all of those cups. You can see exactly what you're getting included with the cantina. Okay, so then they went on to the main part of the presentation, which was effectively the Q&A. So the first question was really about the exclusivity of the 3 figures that are with the Haslab, and the answer I felt they gave kind of like muddied the water even more. I think they really thought that they were clearing it up, but I didn't think they did at all. Because at the end of the day, they did kind of say that the 3 figures that you are getting as in the base offering, which is the 2 sisters and Wooher, are exclusive to the Haslab, but they said there are no current future plans to release those any other way. Now, you could take it as that, you know, they aren't going to do it. Why would they do it? They don't need to do it. But it doesn't mean that they can't. It doesn't mean that they won't. It could be 10 years down the line and they decide to do a 3-pack of those figures, for example. Then they talked about the 3 figures, which are the tier unlocks, which are Nabron Leeds, Greedo and Aliel Shush. And they just reconfirmed really that it's the card back that are exclusive to the Haslab on this occasion. So those 3 card backs you will not be able to get outside of this Haslab. However, they do plan hopefully to reissue those figures on different card backs somewhere along the line, but not if they're unlocked. But then they did backtrack on that a little bit. You know, they did say that they could do, but it's just a little bit more unlikely that they would. So, you know, clear as mud, basically that. So that's the first question. Now, as I said earlier, I was going to talk about some of the negative things that I felt about this presentation. They didn't really say who these questions were asked by. So I went through all of the time and trouble to, you know, ask my community about questions, put some questions together for myself, and I sent them off. And I don't know whether they actually considered my question to be answered. Some of the questions in here I did ask, but other people may have as well. For example, one was regarding the packaging, which we'll get onto in a second. So that was a bit of a negative. They didn't say, you know, oh, Chris from Bantha Skull. Sorry, Chris, for using you as an example. But they didn't say, Chris from Bantha Skull asks X, Y, and Z. You know, they just said, this is a question, Chris is going to ask it, and Jing's going to answer it. And they sort of took turns like that. Very weird setup if you ask me. As I said, we had no chance to sort of give feedback or, you know, add more to the question or whatever, or get something reconfirmed. It was just a bit of an odd setup. Anyway, on to the next question. Somebody asked how they decided on the figures that they've included. You know, how did they decide on those particular characters? And they just sort of spoke to that, you know, Greedo's an obvious one because he's a main character in that cantina. He has the shootout with Han Solo, so they felt that they had to put him in, even though he is a tier unlock and not a figure in the base offering. Ali al-Shush was an obvious one because they said he's a never before made figure, and, you know, they really wanted to get that one out there. Something special for the cantina, that kind of thing. Now, you've got to remember that I am paraphrasing here. This isn't exactly to the word what they said, but it's along the lines of what they were saying. And the next question was about adding the lights that they've used in the photography for the table lamps and things like that as a bonus tier in the middle or in between, you know, Greedo and Nabran Leeds, for example. And for this one, Chris basically alluded to the fact that, you know, the tiers had to be focused around the figures. The figures are the most important thing. But they wanted to give the fans the ability to customize and do all that cool kind of stuff, which is why they've made the tables have the holes in. And Chris even pointed out the droid detector and the fact that they've made that clear plastic so the light will shine through and all that kind of thing. So there's no plans to add the lighting, but it shouldn't be too difficult for us to get that kind of lighting and make our cantinas look pretty good. Question 4 was about plans to release future Cantina aliens to support the longevity of the project, and, you know, they made the point that it would be a great selling point for people to know so that they back more Cantinas. And on this one, Jing alluded to the fact that they've just pipelined Hammerhead, which isn't something that they would usually do within a Cantina, you know, pipeline so many characters that are connected to it. They understand the world building element of it, and they said that they're going to be doing more for Return to Tatooine without giving any specifics, so we don't know whether that's actually going to be, you know, Cantina aliens or things that are connected to Tatooine outside. It could be literally be anything. They also mentioned that they have supported previous campaigns with the barge denizens that we only got last year, even though the barge came out in 2019. So they were just basically saying, you know, this cantina could still be supported in 5 years' time. That's basically what they're saying. As the years go by, if we have this cantina, they will support it. But they didn't say, you know, how quickly we'll be able to fill our cantinas with aliens and things like that. Question 5 was about the packaging and how they're going to box it. Whether the box is going to be different for the base offering versus the deluxe offering, and they confirmed exactly what I thought it would be, and I think I mentioned this on one of my videos. So if anyone got the Haslab Sky Striker out there, that is exactly pretty much how it's going to be. So it's going to come in a shipper box, and in that shipper box will be another box which will be the actual box for the item in the style of, you know, Vintage Kenner, TVC, very much like the Ghost and the Barge and the Razor Crest. And then there'll be another box in there containing all of the extra bits for the deluxe version. Now, I'm not too sure if there'll be 2 different size shippers depending on what you get. I would imagine it might be the same size shipper, but that extra cardboard box will be empty and it's just in there to stop the actual box rattling around. That's kind of my thoughts on it, but that's how they address that anyway. Question 6 was about the lack of floor. Why does this Haslab Cantina not have floor? And Chris basically answered that by saying, you know, because it's modular, they didn't want to stick to one footprint, and by providing a floor, you would be stuck to one way of displaying it, basically, which is fair enough. So that's kind of what they said about that. Question 7 was, why isn't the Haslab time frame the standard 45 days? Having a big American holiday towards the end of May affects people's ability to back it. And Jing basically said that they're learning and evolving with each Haslab that they do. Each Haslab is different. This one in particular had several factors from big events like San Diego Comic-Con at the end of July. That's coming up. And then they alluded to the fact that the community have known that there was a big Haslab coming since March. So, you know, we kind of should have been prepared for it, basically. So all of those factors that they took into consideration, and they just said that they hoped that fans would get behind this shortened timeline and back the dream project. Question 8 was, why is now the right time for the Cantina and the Return to Tatooine? Why not something from the Phantom Menace for the 25th anniversary, or something from new media like Bad Batch Crew, for example? And I'm going to read now, best as I can, from a post that was posted on John Miko's Vintage Collection Facebook group by John Lindquist, because I want to get this bit exactly right. So Jing said, so this is a great community of supporters of the original trilogy, especially a dream environment and a dream HasLab like the Cantina, with some never before done figures to go along with it, as well as some great updates and modern articulation for some other figures. So it's never a wrong time for the original trilogy. We know that it's core, it's foundational, it's classic. For this HasLab, we wanted to focus on classic, we wanted to focus on Return to Tatooine, that whole theme, so we think it's time, and we know that a lot of fans agree with us. However, we do know that Star Wars Galaxy is vast and we have so many worlds and characters and stories to choose from. That is the beauty of Star Wars. We of course appreciate the other eras of Star Wars timelines, so just to share, for the upcoming San Diego Comic-Con reveals, they will not be tied to the Return to Tatooine, even though that is a key focus for the upcoming year. We've already said it, we've already promised it, but for San Diego, that will not be a focus. We have a lot of other shows to support for San Diego that I think fans will be excited to see. So that could be anything from Andor, Ahsoka, the Bad Batch, it could be anything. He says, ultimately, we aim to support both in the Vintage Collection. And then Chris said, we're going to presume we are backed by the time San Diego Comic-Con happens, and we will bring this model with us so you guys can see it in person. I know the campaign will have ended, but it will be a great chance for everybody to see it in person, get close-up look at this. Jing said, even more reason to back it. Chris said, come and see what you've backed and come say hi. So there you go. If you're going to go to San Diego Comic-Con and this thing is backed, then you are going to be able to see it in the flesh, which is awesome. Question 9 was about, is there a space for the Cantina band in this HasLab? And as we've talked about many times before, and this is how they answered it basically, that this Cantina is based on blueprints from Lucasfilm. The band were shot in another location in California, I believe, where the rest of it was done in the UK. So the band are never actually in the Cantina at the exact same time as all the other shots. And they put another video out on the Hasbro Pulse YouTube channel with Emily and, I do apologise, I can't remember his name, but the guy that takes the photos. And within that video, they had the band in an alcove, all 7 of them, and they look pretty cool in there. So that's the answer to that one. And question 10 was, this Cantina opens up possibilities and requirements of so many more characters. How many more aliens might make it into immediate production if this is backed? Jing says, we agree this is a world we want to get behind, so the HasLab itself contains great figures within the campaign, either in the base funding or the unlockable tiers. We've already pipelined the main characters that we will do in the future between the mains like Ben Kenobi, Luke, Han and Chewie, and for those who have not seen, and now today, Moma Nadon. So that's just the start. Again, in the past, we've never officially pipelined things within a HasLab, but we know how important it is to world build. We'll share that on top of what you guys already know today. We do already have plans to share more reveals in the future, especially as you know our theme is to return to Tatooine. Of course, if funded, it allows us to lean in even more for the years to come. I shared in one of the earlier questions all the things that we've done for other HasLab campaigns in the years past, and we've continued to support through the years, like the Barge Denizens was last year. Chris has put, yep, we're still supporting the original HasLab. So this is very much like the previous question. Now, that's all of the questions. Now, unfortunately, some of the questions that I posted weren't answered, and one of them was specifically about the Legacy Collection figures of Lisub, Serlin, Herchek Kalfas, Trinto Duaba, I think his name is, and the Brainiac guy as well. Unfortunately, that question wasn't answered, and it is really frustrating because those 4 figures alone are going to cost people like, I don't know, £400, $400 to get. So it would be really, really nice if they could just say, look, yes, we will attempt to get those out for you. Because for me, that is one of the main reasons that's stopping some people that are a little bit undecided in actually backing this Cantina. And it's the fact that they don't already have these figures and they don't want to be spending, pretty much what the Cantina is going to be costing them to obtain these figures. Now, a lot of people have already got them, which is great, but some people haven't. So I felt that it would have been nice if they could have at least addressed that. They have addressed that they are going to be supporting the Cantina in the future with other things connected to Tatooine, but they didn't specifically give any names. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they'll go back and update ones that they've already put out, from the Legacy Collection, for example. So I was a little bit disappointed in that question. But so let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about all of this. In my opinion, it was a bit of a strange way to conduct a Q&A. We had to send in the questions and then we joined a call basically and pretty much watched them answer the questions with no interaction whatsoever. I felt that was a little bit strange and a little bit disappointing because, you know, you do want that sort of opportunity to go back and, you know, further explain a question or attempt to get a better answer or whatever. As always with these things, the questions that you ask have to be about the subject matter. So if it's about recent releases, recent reveals, things like that, other Q&As have been like that. This one was obviously specifically about the Haslab, and I just felt that it gave them an opportunity to get some of the questions answered. It was just done in a pretty weird format, and that's just my opinion on it really. I kind of thought I almost wasted my time being there because I was just sitting there watching, and essentially they could have just sort of recorded that and sent it out as a link, or even just put it up on their own YouTube channel. I don't really see the problem with, you know, not posting it or whatever. We're not really allowed to post it. So yeah, it was a little bit of a strange way of doing it, but let me know your thoughts on the things that they mentioned. Obviously the really good news is that we're going to be getting Hammerhead. That is fantastic news. The Dimensions thing was great as well. But let me know your thoughts on the questions that they answered. So thanks so much for watching, everybody. Thanks to my Patreon supporters and channel members. Your support means a great deal to me, as always. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we shall see you on the next one.